Welcome to Hierasmus and Friends, Stories Behind the Science, hosted by Hierasmus, the leading clinical platform for ABA therapy. Each episode highlights inspiring stories from experts and individuals with unique perspectives. Join us as we explore valuable insights and foster empowerment within the autism community. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Hierasmus and Friends. I'm your host, Amy, and today I'm excited to chat with someone who's become a bold and beloved voice in the ABA community, Liat Sachs. Liat is the founder of Study Notes ABA, popular podcast host, and creative mind behind a growing CU platform. From building a study empire to navigating entrepreneurship and parenting with honesty and humor, Liat brings her full, authentic self to everything she does. What's up, Liat? How's it going?
Hi, Amy. Thanks so much for having me on. And what an intro. You make me
Yeah.
sound very cool. Appreciate it.
Well, you are kind of a big deal. We're very excited to have you today.
Well,
So
I'm
let's
stoked.
just dive right in. For those that don't know you yet, who is Liat Sachs and what is Study Notes ABA all about?
So, Liat Sachs is, I'm a 34-year-old who lives in Dallas, Texas, um, who ended up as a business, running a business, which was not really my intention. My I always wanted to be a teacher. That was my number
Okay.
one goal. I wanted to be a teacher. Like I knew that from the youngest age. I would teach anyone who would listen, like stuffed animals, people. Like my poor mom was held like hostage, like in all my classes all the time. Um, so that's what I wanted to do. And life kind of had other plans for me with my health
Hmm.
along the way. Also like there's just multiple rejections along the way. Like I knew I wanted to do special ed. Then the school I wanted to go to, I got rejected from twice. Don't worry, I ended up going there. Go Terps. Um, and just everything along the way of kind of basically, I got diagnosed with lupus when I was 22,
Okay.
which changed a lot of things for me in my life. Um, like I did most of school from a hospital bed after junior year. I don't even know how I made it through grad school. And all of it was to be a special ed teacher. And I started teaching special ed. I lasted maybe like 3 weeks in a charter school classroom because I was hospitalized catching everything that the kids had. Because
Uh-huh.
with lupus, they put you on immunosuppressant drugs because your immune system's overactive. So I'm like, crap. Like that was my plan. Like I wanted to be a teacher. That's all I wanted to do. So at that point, um, now I don't have a job. I am at that, I think I was 24 then. I can't keep a job as a teacher because I'm catching everything and I'm hospitalized. So I'm like, maybe I'll go back to school. Maybe I'll do ABA. Like it seems like more one-on-one. I don't have to walk into a whole classroom of germs. There's more one-on-one. Maybe working with kids with autism, they're more isolated from one another. Not as much like a germ pool. So I'm like, okay, I'll do ABA. So then I went back to FIT to do the coursework, the 2-year coursework, and took me forever to complete my hours because just again, I could only work so part-time with my health.
Hmm.
Like it was really like a physical constraint thing. So when I finally finished my hours and my coursework, I was like, I'm ready to take this test. And this is the BCBA exam. Anyone listening, you know, like the dreaded BCBA exam that from the time that you sign up for grad school, they tell you, like, hey, at the end of your program, you're going to need to take this test. You look it up, you see the scary things people write about it, and you're like, shit. Am I allowed to say shit?
You are.
Okay. um, I'm just having a little bit of like stimulus control issues because I see my behavior bitch's background. And so the shit came out. Sorry. Um, so I was okay, like so I knew I was gonna take this test. I'm ready to
Yep.
do it. And life had another path for me. At that time I got really sick, resulting in me needing to get my gallbladder taken out. And sorry, I know this is a long-winded story, but it
No,
really
it's
is the
good.
story of like who I am and my
Hmm.
story. Even though like I'm not all gallbladder. Actually, I have no gallbladder. But um so at that time I was like ready to take my test. I had come home for a Jewish holiday or something and
Hmm.
they said my gallbladder needed to come out. That surgery led to complications, which resulted in me watching my fingertips, three of them that they weren't able to save, freeze off over the next 3.5 months. I was put in hospital. I was like flown up to John Hopkins in Baltimore because the number one doctor for this condition is. We didn't know what was going on. We didn't know what had caused this. Only later we found out that the doctors didn't follow my medical records. So my hands were just exposed during the surgery. I have really bad Raynaud's. So my fingers were dying. Now this is not all of who I am, by the way, but it is part of my intro because it is
Yes.
the back of Study Notes ABA and
Mm-hmm.
what I've built. So at this point, I'm watching my fingers decompose over 3.5 months. They're dying, going, like, think of getting frostbite.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a really bad pain. They're trying to make sure I'm getting blood to the rest of like my toes, my other vital organs. And I'm full time on pain meds, like on like you could push it every 30 minutes, more morphine, Dilaudid, whatever it is. And my brain is literally fried. And at this point, I kept being like, I'm never going to pass this test. I'm never like, my parents are like, dude, like, let's like get you out of here alive. Like,
Uh-huh.
screw the test, you know? Um, so like I had this thing in my head and I was in a very, very dark place. I mean, I had people wiping me, dressing me. I couldn't do anything independently. And at this point, I'm 26, still
Mm-hmm.
hadn't been able to hold a job. So I'm like not feeling cool at all, feeling like a real loser. But now in hindsight, it's
Look at
like
you now. Yeah.
the choice. And I mean, um, so I thought I'll never be able to take this test. I'm gonna like, I like was trying to figure out like, how am I gonna like take care of myself for the rest of my life? Like what's gonna, and fast forward 3.5 months later, after a lot of pain, a lot of pain, and my brain being literally I thought I was like permanently like my IQ dropped at least 300 points.
Mm-hmm.
Um, once I got my fingertips amputated, three of them, ta-da,
Mm-hmm.
one, two, like both pinkies and one middle finger. So the middle finger I miss the most. The pinkies are fine. Uh, I was like, I have to pass this test. I have to make something of myself. Like I can't quit. I'm 26. I've never been able to hold a job. Like I have to make something of myself. Like I already like failed out of being a teacher. That's all I wanted to do. I'm gonna take this test. And at that point, like I had been living in Austin. I had because of my health, like my parents had like got feel to pack me up and like move me back home. I'm living at my parents, and my full-time job was to study for this test. And at the same time, I was in OT learning how to reuse my hands, just like literally picking up marbles, picking up like playing cards, and
What was that like? Was it really, were there like, do you remember certain tasks that were more difficult?
all of it, like literally like using your fingers to like pick up card. Like I'll tell you, it's like very like puts you like life into perspective. Like,
Uh-huh.
even like working with clients, when you have like you realize like the dignity and things like that when someone's wiping you, when someone is
Mhm.
dressing you.
Absolutely.
And I mean, honestly, like when a doctor even now like tells me to like undress in the room, like no matter what doctor, like they like want to walk out, but I'm already undressed and I'm like, oh sorry, like I literally have like zero like
No shame.
I'm so used to being like a lab rat in a hospital. So
Been desensitized.
yeah. Um so all of this, like that challenge along the way, I'm literally, and but something I always really liked, I always loved like penmanship, pens, notebooks, handwriting,
Love it.
like the notes I used to write to my friends, like growing up in like middle school and stuff, were like amazing. Uh, you like if I signed your yearbook and I liked you, you knew you were gonna get like it rhinestone back with like full on notes and like 10 different fonts and like a scrapbook. So like that was kind of taken away from me. So
Mm.
but I needed to study for this test. And by the way, I've been on ADHD meds since I was in fourth grade. And during this healing time of my hands, they're like, you can no longer take your ADHD meds. And I'm like, what? Like, how am I supposed to pass this test with my hands literally
Yeah.
cut off? By the way, they were left as open wounds that had to heal over 2 months. Like,
Wow.
they weren't like nice, clean. It was like scary. They had to be changed like 5 times a day. How am I going to do this without my hands and without any medication? Like, my ADD meds. Like, if anyone thinks that ADD is false, they meet me and they're like, oh, I get it. So I was like, I got to make this really freaking interesting. So I used to take myself to this bubble tea shop. Um, I bring this like portable space heater because I was so temperature sensitive after like the losing of my fingers. And I would sit and like write my notes out every day, but it like take me forever to write things because like my hands, I wasn't like used to using them for months. So you kind of like, and I was like, I mean, I tried a few different ways to study. I was like, okay, I'm going to use this. And I get my friends all her notes that she had taken when she was studying. I'm like, oh, Jordan, I need your notes and this and this. And then I was like, no, like I have to write this down myself and I have to make it really freaking interesting if I am going to take my like squirrel ADHD brain and get myself to focus. So I started drawing like funny things, funny ways to remember things, like relatable examples. Like there was like butts and like sex and drugs like in the examples because like, that's what's going to help you remember it.
Yeah.
And obviously, like everyone else, I was distracted by Instagram or whatever now it's like probably feels TikTok. I never really got into TikTok so much. I'm still an Instagram girl. And I found myself like scrolling. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to make an Instagram account just for my own notes. And that's why I made Study Notes ABA,
Love it.
which I always say, like, if I knew it was going to be a business, I would have been much more creative in the name, but it wasn't intended. Um, and so I started posting my notes there. And this was like before there, I guess like the timing was like right and people started following it.
Hmm.
And so when I passed, back when you had to wait for your results, now they come immediately. But then I, when I took it, it was 45 days. So you're waiting in that in between time. You're like, do I keep studying? Do I not? Like, what do I do? Which, by the way, good job, BACB. If we talk about immediacy of reinforcement, it should definitely be known immediately.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so during that time, I kept posting stuff because, like, to me, it just like when I saw behavior, I was like, this just makes sense, and like this is funny, and this is why girls like assholes, and this is why we keep coming back for more, and this is why like the person who like doesn't text us is like the most appealing, and I just like saw all this, and like once like I feel like and like I you can't unsee it,
Uh-huh.
and so I had this thing that like so people were like, "Oh my God, you helped me so much. Your notes, blah blah blah." So when I passed, I posted it on my Instagram too. Like guys, like they're kind of like I guess like following. I don't know how many
Yeah.
people at the time, but like some people were. And I, when I was getting my supervision hours, because like I could never work somewhere full time, I had to have a remote supervisor. And there was someone and like who went to Binghamton University where I had gone for like 1 year before I
Uh-huh.
transferred to Maryland, who had rejected me multiple times. Um, and I met a girl that I knew she was doing ABA, and like when I contacted her about supervision, she's like, I was like, okay, well, what do I need to pay you? And she was like, don't pay me anything, just pay it forward later. So this is like at the beginning of my supervision.
Hmm.
And so then when I passed the test, I was like, this is my chance to pay it forward. I'm
Yeah.
going to start doing free classes. So I started telling people like, hey, get on Zoom at this time. Um, and then at 45 minutes, we'll log off because it was a free account and then we'll get back on. And I started teaching these free classes and people were passing. And
Cool.
that's how Study Notes ABA came to be. And so that's who I am. I'm a teacher. I'm creative. If you look at Study Notes ABA, the brand, whether you look at the Instagram page or you look at our classes, every single part of it, I could say, is truly Liat. So when you're like, who is Liat? Every part of it, Study Notes ABA fully embraces everything that I still am able to do. Like I've lost the
Uh-huh.
ability to do a lot of different things, like with my health conditions, like the lupus, the scleroderma, the Raynaud's. But every single thing that I am still capable of doing and that represents me is within the brand. So like it comes so naturally to me because like I love color, I love stuff, I love pens, I love markers, I love humor, I love just and that's everything that you see within the brand.
Yes. So you
So
paired all your reinforcers so that
a
you could run
thousand
the
percent.
company and enjoy it.
And that's where it came. It was like studying doesn't have to suck. And I
Yeah.
think like it's taking something like in using my behavioral knowledge in, not maybe applying it to, the autism population.
Mhm.
I mean, if people take our classes, who it could help, it, but using what we know about pairing and reinforcement and bringing it to studying. And
Mhm.
that's how it all started at Study Notes ABA. Does
That's
that answer your question?
absolutely. I'm so glad that you
Okay.
took the time to share all that. And the one I will say I learned, I didn't realize that you couldn't be on your ADHD medication. I mean, that's
No,
very interesting. That's huge.
no,
So,
that's like
yeah,
that.
you
Yeah, that's
overcame
like
quite a
at
bit.
fourth grade. Like I was like, what am I? Yes, I'm back
Uh,
on it. I'm back
mm.
on it.
Okay.
Or
So
else I couldn't tell you that full story.
so study notes, it's grown beyond Snabba now. You wear many hats. You are the founder of, and so study notes also people call Snabba, just in case anyone doesn't know. You're also the host of a huge podcast and creator of a CEU platform. So how did it go? Like, what was the progression of it all? And where did it go from study notes? And
So,
when study notes started, sorry to interrupt.
okay, so that was
I was thinking, were you passed the BCBA exam and you did work for a clinic for a little bit or for
yeah.
an MBA
So I
company,
yeah,
right?
yeah, I work clinically
Yeah.
and I found myself and I was so nervous to have a clinical job because I was like I don't know that I could be reliable.
Uh-huh.
Like I would obsess about like because when you have like an invisible illness like lupus or scleroderma or any of these things, it's like to everyone you look fine, but like when you don't show up or something like and that pressure made me more sick. So like I'd be obsessed with like I can't miss, I can't miss, I can't miss, I can't miss. I
Hmm.
need 14 hours sleep. I need 14 hours sleep. And then and so I did that first. I did that
Okay.
for a year and a half, but I was teaching the classes at the same time, like for free at night.
Hmm.
Um, but matching law, right? We say behavior grows where reinforcement flows. Like I found myself like thinking of like funny examples and things all the time and like wanting to like post it. So like I continued doing it on this study notes ABA account. Um, and after a year and a half, I was like, it was scary to, like, I mean, first of all, as someone with like every health illness, like thing, I needed health insurance. So I was like, I can't like just like go on my own and do this. Right. Like that is what's keeping me going. So like I knew that if I left my job, I'd have Cobra for what, 6 months, maybe,
Hmm.
or whatever it is. Like I'm someone who like insurance loses money on
Hmm.
because of all my health stuff. So I was like, if I'm gonna go into this, I'm gonna like lean in fully. So that's when I did it. I left my job and I was like, I'm gonna legitimize this. I'm gonna like no longer we're gonna use a free Zoom account. We're gonna get a paid Zoom account. Now, like no longer are people gonna have access to like the Google Drive of like recorded classes forever. Like now they're gonna be like, on the website. We're gonna do like, now it like has to support like myself financially that I could then get insurance for my own company and this and that. And so um like in hindsight, it was brave, but I like felt so strongly this is what I need to be doing. Like I
Hmm.
need to teach. I love teaching. There's nothing that like brings me alive more and makes me feel like I forget that like I have any health issues or anything when I'm teaching. I'm like this is what I'm supposed to do. And so um that's kind of how that happened. So this all started by the way in 2018.
Hmm.
Like technically I was still working at a job. And then in 2019, like the end of 20, yeah, that's when I left and I was just doing the test prep stuff. And I remember I was at a wedding in Israel, and suddenly my website, actually, I think before I actually left my job, the website I had, it was like built on Wix, whatever it was.
Okay.
Suddenly, like you'd get like a little notification, like cha-ching, an order came through, an order came through. And by the way, the classes started off at like $5 a class, right? Like, so everything like went up very organically. And at one point before that, it was like send me after like I'd done the classes free for a couple cycles, it was like send me $5 Venmo, I'll give you the Zoom link, blah 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 blah. Then it was like suddenly my website was like cha-ching, 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 cha-ching,
So
right? And I'm
cool.
like, what is going on? Like what? And what had happened is there's like an ABA study group on Facebook, and someone who had taken the test, um, I think 7 times or something. I guess like she was like regularly known in this ABA study group on Facebook. She posted like y'all like she made a video. You wouldn't believe it. Like I took this test so many times. I'm telling you what made the difference was study notes ABA, blah blah blah. And it was like a literal like tipping point
Yeah.
in the business. And it was like, oh my God, like our website literally crashed. Like it wasn't made to handle that. Our Zoom room didn't have and
Love
it
it.
was like it was crazy. It was like a literal moment. And it was like this like recognition and like this reinforcement of like, oh my God, I'm doing something right. Like,
Uh-huh.
and so that's how that all started. So then it started building that the curriculum. I mean, if you look at like old videos, I literally used to like teach on a whiteboard and like at my dark apartment and like you couldn't see because of the glare, and then I have to like erase it after. Like the videos now have like they've all been like professionally recorded. They're this, like they're all like done on an iPad, so you see everything live. People are taking notes with us. So it started like that, and that was the idea of, I mean, and it comes from night one. I tell everyone my story. I'm like, if I
Uh-huh.
could pass this test, anyone, and that's where the motto "pass the effing test" came from.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so it started there, built that, then we built mocks out, and then like things just like made sense to me, and it was like, oh my God, I want to make an entire like millennial mock, things that are millennial. And by the way, I like some part of me is just like stuck in the 90s,
I
like
love it.
just like I mean, as you could see at the conferences, my tables are like literally like the 90s threw up. It's like that's also part of Liat, like who I am. So then I made a millennial mock and like things just, and I was like, I started like giving a lot of recommendations for different pens and stuff for taking pretty notes because like a big part of our thing is like turning your thing
Uh-huh.
into like an art project. And then, eventually like so I would order and make little packs and then eventually it was like, whoa, like if we're going to do this, we're going to order like large scale. So, I mean, I made a lot of mistakes along the way of different things, but it was like now we have positive reinforcement pairing packs that come with the highlighters, the graph paper post-its, the stickers, the anything that you're going to need to take your notes to make
Mhm.
them beautiful for the test. So everything kind of, like you said, like where these other branches come from, everything was based on like a need, it started off with my own problem, right? It was like, I need to pass this test. And then everything else after that was like, oh, people are driving around. They're driving between clients and their RBTs. They need a
Mm.
podcast. Like they
Yeah.
asked for it.
Yeah.
So then it was like, and I was like, well, I would love, like, I always love the more interesting people, the better.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is a cool way for me to like talk to people that I want to talk to. And like just naturally, I see things behaviorally. So I could have anyone on the podcast and tie behavioral principles. People are like listening to an interesting podcast and then they are tying, and then I could tie them to ABA. So people are learning without really realizing it. So that's where the podcast came to be. And then, people would take our classes and be like, I like miss the collective. Like it was a place that I showed
Oh.
up twice a week. Like it was a community. I felt like I like, like I had my people, whatever it is. And now, you know, everything has been like, we saw like there was like a gap somewhere that people have reached out. So then it's like, but now I'm done, like, and I miss it. And I was like, well, what about the idea that CEUs also don't have to suck? Like, it could be a fun platform there. And like now, not only are our students that we've, had the opportunity to teach, now they have what to share. Like they're specialized in different topics. I mean,
Mhm.
some people maybe weren't our students because Study Notes wasn't around at the time, but I'm sure they would have been there maybe. Um, and so that's how it happened with CEUs too. And so it was the idea. So everything kind of like just built out. And then it was also, I mean, that's what also happened with the Study Notes ABA app, right? Like we were teaching these classes, but what about people on the go who are like getting distracted on Instagram? We built the Study Notes ABA app, which is an app which has thousands of questions, which we also thought we were going to like be able to write the questions in a weekend. And I like, got different like people who were like involved in different things. LOL, it took like 2 years. And and so that was like gamified. It was like, why
Mhm.
don't we gamify this? And like you could pick your reinforcer, whatever you're into. You could earn like wine in your cup. You could pop bubble wrap if that's what you're into. You can pop Skinner's pimples if you're like a pimple popper, like whatever it is that you're into, like we have it for you.
No judgment
Uh,
either. It sounds
right.
like.
That's like, yeah, I always watch those videos. And we made a feed on there that looks like an Instagram feed, but it's just people's notes. And so you could comment on them, like them. So
Oh,
like, and there's like live study groups on it. So those were all based on needs. People are like, I just want something like when
yeah.
I'm like going to the bathroom or like sitting in the bath or like whatever it is. So every single thing we've done has been based on people coming to us with an MO or like
Uh-huh.
a problem. And it's like, okay, how are we going to do this? But how are we going to do it cool in a way that we'd want it? Right. And I always say, like, for something to grasp my attention, you better be really interesting. So, like, I take that pressure upon myself to make it that interesting for others.
I
So
love
that's
it.
really how those started.
Super cool. So just a natural progression, really. And I do want to talk more about your growing business and the podcast, but I also know that you've been showing up at conferences more lately. So you were a keynote speaker at CTABA. You were on a panel with me at APBA, and also we also got to hang out at Texaba. So is this something we'll be seeing more from you, Leon?
Well, first of all, thanks for including me on the panel. I felt very cool doing that. Um, and will you be seeing more?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes,
That was
you
a slow
will. I'm
yes.
on a break now. Like I've tell you, like I like was like looking at ABAI and I was like the exhaustion that I felt after these
Yeah.
conferences. I mean, first of all, it's just so incredible. Like, even though like I get to like interact with students and stuff on the screen and stuff, like when you meet people in real life, then they're like, "Whoa, like you changed my life. Like I passed this test with you." Or like people who like one of my best friends now is a result of someone who like listened to the podcast and like came up to me when we did like a meetup one time in Miami and was like, "Why didn't you tell me you got divorced?" I was like, "What? I've never met you." She was like, "I feel like we were best friends." Anyways, fast forward, she now moved to Dallas,
Mm-hmm.
lived it her life and lived in Dallas, and now I have like a BCBA bestie, my Brazilian BCBA bestie. Um, and so meeting people in real life is really like it's cool. And actually, like I think I went to Texava years ago. Then I went to then the first one I went to this year was APBA. It was like, okay, we have to go. It's in Dallas. This is
Yeah.
a big one in Dallas. Um, and then Tech Saba and CTABA. So yeah, I'm gonna be at more conferences. That's the goal. It's definitely nice to see people. It's just a matter of I have to like again, with having any sort of health issue, you kind of have to like figure out like where you're gonna like I can't be at everything because I just physically am like I just don't have the same I have energy actually, but it's the problem is if I use too much of it, then I end up in the hospital every time. So, but I will be at conferences. I really want to go to ABAI this coming year. I've never been to ABAI. I've actually had tickets two separate times and like for a table that Snabo was going to have a table, like exhibitor table.
Uh-huh.
And both times I ended up getting sick. They were really nice and actually
Yeah.
refunded me. But so it's happened twice. So like maybe the third time is when I'm meant to go.
That
We'll
maybe.
see.
But yeah, I can definitely echo you. Conferences, I feel like, are one of the few life events that can be so exhausting yet energizing at the same time because it is like there's such a vibe and there's so much energy and you almost have that FOMO where like you keep going because you don't want to miss out and then you just
Exactly.
crash when it's all
A
over.
thousand percent. And like I want to hear everyone's story. Like the people come up to me with their
Yeah.
personal story, like you don't understand. Like my mom had passed away when I was studying and like you were there. Like, like you want to hear all these stories.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so like you're fully locked in. But that like you only I think when the conference ends, you're like, oh my God, I literally can't move my body. That's what
Yep. Yep. And yeah, even during that panel, going back to all your health struggles, like I'm not a cold person, I'm especially cold natured, but I feel like I get cold easily, physically cold.
oh,
And I
yeah.
remember Liat was like, "This room is so freezing," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's a little cold," but it wasn't as like normally I don't know, I feel like I'm cold all the time, and it wasn't freezing cold to me. And I look over, and poor Liat fingertips are like literally the color of this room, like they were like
Like I'm
bluish
telling you, it's
charcoal.
and
Uh,
like
so
once they're like it's like so painful. Once they're cold, like I'm like trying to like down tea to like make my inner core warm. It's bad. But the crazy thing is before like I had this Raynaud's that's a circulation issue. I was always someone who wanted the room like 65 degrees. I wanted only ice drinks. I like that's like what I like, but now I have to like change everything because my fingers literally might freeze off. It's a circulation issue.
pretty scary. Well, take care of yourself. We want you to be around.
I'm working on it.
Uh, so let's talk more about your podcast. You have
Okay.
almost a 5 million downloads, about 25,000 listeners per episode, and a loyal following that clearly connects with your unique voice and message. So your podcast has featured some really interesting guests. Who do you think has been your most memorable or surprising guest so far, and why?
Oh, it's crazy. Like there's so many that I'm like I'm stoked on and then like
Yep.
someone else comes. So it's not like just like top of mind. Um I we had someone on our podcast. Why am I drawing a blank? Oh, Bruce Lisker. He was in prison for 26 years for killing his mom. To be later be found out that he was innocent. That was wild. That was very wild.
You know what? I listened to that one and it's so bizarre how you can like remember where you were. I was like at a gym on an elliptical machine, I think.
Really?
It was,
And that was
and it
like
was
that
a
was so
good
long ago. I
one.
was just like I had so many questions. I was like,
Yeah.
"What?" That I mean, I always have so many questions. It's literally my opportunity. Like I like asking questions in general, so it's my opportunity to do that. Who else? I always reference the one that we had like an ex pimp on the show. Like it was just like so brutally honest. Like I loved, and it was just like some of these things are like just like so behavioral that
Uh-huh.
you know they're obviously not coming into it to talk about it behaviorally, but I'm just like, you know what? It totally makes sense. How hard? Like, why would someone want to go work at McDonald's after they're making 5 grand a day being a pimp? You know, and it's like these things that like it's just in life that I never thought about. And then um I'm not telling you guys to do it, by the way. I'm just saying like it just makes you think about these things behaviorally and being like, oh well, matching law once again, like you see where the behavior goes. And finding replacement behaviors is hard. That we just had someone on who runs a legal brothel. That's interesting. Uh, who else did we have on? I mean, there's just
A variety. So you just enjoy
yeah.
hearing, talking to all these very
It's
different.
literally like my opportunity to like. I always loved like yeah anything that's true crime related. We had like a we just did one with a
We just lost your audio, Liat, for a
oh
second.
is it out still?
Nope, I have you now. You just said we just something, and then I didn't hear
Oh, we
anything.
just had someone on who was like a forensic BCBA and like
Oh,
they
cool.
told me all about Dahmer and it's just it's fun asking people these questions. Like I have so many and I feel like my job is to ask the questions that everyone wants to know and no one's asking. We
Yeah.
had a Parisa who's a BCBA who was just on The Bachelor.
You
I
beat me
always have
to
so many
that one,
questions.
by the way. She was on my potential guest, and then I was like, darn it, like right when I was gonna reach out.
You should
But
reach out. You should.
I,
She's so sweet.
I
Uh,
but yeah.
so yeah, and like I always had questions about that. I wanted to know who paid for their dresses, if it's their actual homes when they go for the hometowns or they're getting Airbnbs. Like I just needed to know all of it. So I get to do that and it's fun.
Super cool. So what kind of
Even though, as
feedback?
I'm sure you know, a podcast is a lot of work. I think people think that you just like set up and like show up and um I've taken time off from the podcast in the past because
Mhm.
like sometimes you just need to like time. It's like a lot of prep, setting up, pre-interviews, doing the call, the editing, the marketing, the, you know.
I am curious as you say that. I was thinking about this. So I don't even know quite how many years it's been or how many episodes you've had, but from, well, first initially and now, like, did you get nervous initially before you would start recording? Or were you never really nervous when you were talking to people?
I don't know. Like talking to people is not my nervous area. Like
Okay.
really, truly. Like I have other things. Like I'll like worry about my health and different things, like different areas. But like also like I started it, you know, like Casey and I were doing it together. It was like it was so fun. It was, you
Chatting with
know,
your friend. Yep.
yeah, it was like chatting with a friend. Like our conversations were this anyways. And like sometimes we do ones that like I would like, you know, I'd be like, oh my God, I saw this person panhandling and like they had a kid. Like, and I had to like give money, you know? And then we talk about it. Like that would be our conversation anyway. So it's like, oh, there's a podcast episode, panhandling, or
Yep.
so it started off like that fun. As like, you know, different times, like coming back and like, you know, um, like doing it alone, I was nervous because, you know, like we don't have the same banter.
hmm
Um, so things like that and like changes. So like that is more nerve wracking. But when you have a friend to like do it with, it's different. But now I'm like, I've been doing it, right? We adapt.
Yep.
And uh yeah, but it's crazy. I can't believe that I've committed to anything for this long.
That's awesome. So, what kind of feedback have you gotten from the ABA community? The good, the bad, share it all. And how do you navigate it?
Uh
Initially, and I would say like feedback early on compared to
oh
feedback.
yeah.
I'm sure it's
So
changed.
early on, it's like, who are these dumb girls calling themselves behavior bitches representing our science? Like, who the F do these people think they are, right? So like I think some of like the OGs in the field, like the older men or whatever, were like, what is this? So then at that point it was like, we better have our shit prepared that we actually know what we're talking about so that like
Mhm.
we could show that like this behavior bitches is not these dumb little bitches. It's like these like empowered, like bad bitches, right?
Yep.
So like, you know, you make sure you show up. And initially got feedback from people being like, this is like a bad look. This is so unprofessional, like using these bad words and this and that. Um, some people like even tried being like, you know, like you're 5 seconds away from a cease and desist or like whatever, like fear tactics instead of like, and it's crazy. The same people now, um, have either like wanted to come on the podcast or started something that like their brand is like literally just like you know, it was like I was like, I get it. I'm one of these people. I'm the people who want to be listening to this. I'm gonna talk to the audience that I'd want to listen to,
Hmm.
right? So it started with that, but I think maybe the more people like, you know, it was like it kept showing up, kept doing it, like putting the work in, like the content was correct, the term utilizing the words correctly, and like you start seeing it more. Then it was like professors were recommending this, or like some supervisors would allow it as like your unrestricted hours,
Hmm.
or you know, some students like loved it, and you know, and that's kind of what kept you going. Obviously, you get negative anytime you put yourself out there publicly for anything. You have to be ready to get shit on. You just have
Hmm.
to be ready. And I remember in the beginning, it was like, oh my God, like, are we in trouble? You know, like, then after a while, you're like, all right, like, either I'm doing something right that people care enough to like talk negatively, and if you know, and sometimes you're gonna, I mean, on the podcast front, you get it. No matter what you do, people are gonna like. But I have to tell you this: the majority of it is love. The majority of it is love. Sometimes we'd make like have a good time if someone like wrote us a review. One of our early on reviews was like, "You guys just like his like you guys just ramble on and on way too long before getting to the topic." Blah blah blah. So like we'd read those feedback too, and like we always like joked in the show because like the person who wrote that like their username was like peanut butter and jelly or something. So anytime that we go off topic, it was like then our new joke like peanut butter and jelly. Like we need to settle down. Um, so you get kind of used to it. I mean, yeah, that's what I'd say.
Yeah, no, that's great. So you've done so much in really a short amount of time. Like it to me, it doesn't seem like you've said, well, I don't know, I think you said 2018. That wasn't that long ago. So what's one thing about your work that makes you feel most proud? Is there one thing that kind of stands out?
Uh,
You're just like, oh my goodness, pinch me moment, or
no, there's so many like so there's like like at the conference when you're in real life and you see like these people like flocking to your table, like like oh my God, like you changed my life, you did this, or sometimes
or
or
when they
the
ask
other
you to
day.
sign their coloring book. That did happen. I was sitting next to
Oh,
one.
and so yeah, that was cool. I was like, I never signed a coloring book. I literally barely could. My hands were literally like purple, frozen. So that was like a very special signing. Um, but also, so the other day, my sister was like, "Hey, I think I want to introduce you to this girl. Her name's Rachel. I think you guys might connect. She like wants to put together some kind of like virtual special ed program. Like I think that like." And I when I was talking to her, it was crazy. I was like asking these questions about different things, and I was like, "Wait, this is the advice that like I know so much about business now. Like I was never a business person, but I'm like, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? And blah blah blah. But if you do this, you want to make sure that." And I was like, and then she'd ask me questions, and it was like I didn't realize how much stuff I've done. You know, sometimes like you're just like in the motion, you're doing these different things, and things like that. You're like, whoa, this is like an actual thing happening here. You kind of just like so, and that's actually why this summer I'm still going to be working, but I'm actually going to be working remote for the summer. And because I had this thing that I was like, I'm just like not feeling as creative. Like I was like having these couple of weeks. Also, it might have been also because I had that hernia surgery.
Yes, give
Um,
yourself some grace. Back
I
in the
literally,
hospital.
I just had a call with my psychiatrist before this, and I was like,
Uh,
every time there's something like physical like it happens to me, I immediately assume like I'm back in a depression. She was like, Liat, like you had a surgery. I was like, I know, yeah, like I get it logically, um, but just this, what was I saying?
about taking a break this summer. You're gonna go,
Oh
are you
yeah,
gonna
so
go
like
up to
this
the beach?
summer, but it's not actually taking a break. Like so what I'm doing is I'm taking a break from like the regular like coming into the office tasks that I do because there's some projects like I really want to get to for study notes ABA that
Mm-hmm.
like I'm like and like I have a passion project that I'm working on that like just when I'm in my everyday routine I'm not doing. So like I had this idea. I was like if I travel like and go see family, I want to be able to like make like separate time to work on these other projects. So because I realized like I was like I never actually like look up. Like it's like you've been like grinding so long, and that was also my coping thing after like my whole like finger health thing. Like it was like I didn't want to see what was wrong with me. That like if I'm just like grinding, like I'm not paying attention. But with that, it's like almost just like take a deep breath.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you'll still see me. I mean, to anyone on the outside, it doesn't look like I'm taking a break because I'm still doing the same. But like just by even like changing your environment, like just the same.
Uh-huh. Well,
So hopefully that just like ignites my creativity.
yeah, I love it. We kind of went in.
Even though like even like booking the trip, I was like I felt more creative already. Like just like knowing that I was like having some kind of change in like my environment.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's going to be nice. I could like really give Kobe, my son, that time as well. So I'm
Yeah.
excited about all of it.
Well, awesome. I was just going to ask about Kobe. I wasn't going to use his name because I didn't know if his name goes on the podcast or not. But yes, you're not
Well,
only are you running this business, but you are also raising a child as a single parent. So I was going to ask, like, how do you manage that balancing act? It sounds like you're definitely going to take some time to kind of switch up your routines and potentially spark some creativity. But when you're in Dallas, on a day-to-day basis, how do you balance it all, Liat?
so I feel extremely fortunate that I have like a badass team, like all around in every area,
Mhm.
whether it's like in the office or um like like a nanny that like has also become like my living best friend and just like everything because I couldn't do it alone, right? I'm also teaching classes in the evenings when people are done with the workday. And so, and I gotta say, sometimes like I realize that as like a complete privilege and amazing thing, but it's also like a complete necessity for me. I couldn't do my work like teaching in the evenings and this and that if I didn't. Um, so that really helps. My family helps out.
Mhm.
Um, and Kobe just happens to be, I know him as mom, so I'm obviously subjective, but just like the cutest, happiest, like chill. Not today. Anyone listening downstairs is like, that's not true. I literally think my aura ring told me I got to work out this morning, but it was like just getting him ready for school. Um, that like I really feel like so like people just like step up and help. Like I just like see some people in the community, like he's just like a lovable. Maybe this is just me. I think every parent, you think like your kid's so special, but so with that, so I have help. Like I just couldn't possibly do it without it. Also,
Mhm.
I have a health issue. So like sometimes what happens, like in the middle of the night, I need to go to the ER. Like I have to have someone who's there. So you kind of like have these like antecedent interventions set up. Um, but it's a lot. And I like give a shout out to anyone. First of all, being a parent in general is a lot of fucking work. Sorry, that's my F bomb. It just like was that passionate. Um, you could beep it if you need. Uh, it's a lot emotionally, like physically. And with that, Martha, my laptop's dying. You're gonna have to cut that out. Sorry. It's not charging for some reason. Um, so that being said, it's exhausting. And anyone who is a single parent and doing it, and I give you all the reinforcement I could possibly offer because I it's exhausting, especially people like working in the field all day, like with other behaviors. Sometimes when you get home, you're like, I'm not dealing with this. Like, get in the bath.
Got the
I see it all the
recording.
time in my classes. Like, I'll see these parents who are like on, it's like 9 at night, like Eastern time. And like you see their kid like hanging on them in the back, like literally like brushing their hair with like a sponge from like the kitchen sink and like parents just being like whatever so they could study. Like
Yes.
it's really you see like parents like nursing, like crying kids in the background. So it's like everyone's just getting by. That's my thing. That's what I assume. We're all just like getting by.
100%. But you're getting by and thriving, so you're doing well.
Uh, it
So what's
it's good
next?
people around. It's about having good people around. Trust
I
me,
like that.
anytime that like
Community.
some
Yeah.
some like of the support system, like trust me, like I've like, you know, like a nanny that like I like had for like ever and like I loved, like had to leave, I'd be like crying for days, like more heartbroken than my divorce. So like
Hmm.
uh, just
So what's
kidding.
next for
Kinda.
Snabba? Any big projects or podcast dreams or new CEOs on the horizon? What's next?
There's always new CEUs coming out because I mean that we're making at Snappa, but also like a lot of people reach out and create because believe it or not, I'm not an expert in any of those areas. Um, and so that's coming for Snabba. Um, something I feel like we're never really like settled with our final product, meaning we are consistently want to make it better. Like, I mean, like I love the program. I believe in it wholeheartedly, but I'm like, okay, we could do this part better. We could do this. So it's always that different part of it. One of our big emphasis that we want to place is on RBTs. Um, I mean, I think it's like crazy that we are, you know, like we're breaking this content down so much to people who have gone through grad school for it. Like, what about these RBTs who are like, we're trying to get excited about the field?
Hmm.
Um, but really, it all comes down to bandwidth, right? Like, we do, like, sometimes when I try to do too much at once, then like nothing good gets done. So it's like, let's do it till we perfect it. And then, so that's definitely one of the plans. Um, we're working more with the universities now. Um, so that's something new. And we're just continually, really, whatever. I mean, I have to have a team like put these things in order because I have a million ideas at a time, right? They're like, okay, so like this has to be like Q2. Liat, settle down. It's okay if I can't see her.
Well, lots of exciting things, and I know I'm sure when you get back from your trip, you'll have even more ideas to bring back to the team and talk about. So.
I hope that's the goal.
So what advice would you give to somebody that maybe is just getting by and they're studying for the exam and they're feeling overwhelmed and burnt out and they might be the one with the toddler with a sponge in their hair? What would you say to those people?
I'd say first of all, okay, it depends where you are. So like if you're someone and you're in grad school and people like are like, should I be starting studying already? I'm like, just get through grad school. So that's number one. If you're still in the
Okay,
grad school thing, like just get by. Even if you're like, I don't think I'm taking anything in,
one thing
like
at a
you're just trying
time.
to like keep your head above water, fine.
Mhm.
Don't worry. Because when it comes time to study, we've got you over here as study notes. Um, like we've broken it down so much that even if you never studied ABA, uh, the goal is that we could still get you to pass the exam because we're going to teach it like so bottom up. But if you're someone and you're struggling, also something I would say is this. I think a lot of us and like just common like things I hear in our field is like we're stressed out. Like I need to pass by X date. You know, my company said this position's blah blah blah. Like there's enough pressure with this test that you don't need to be on someone else's deadline. Okay. Like when you pass, you're gonna pass. And like if your company's not hiring a BCBA then, which by the way,
What else will?
is that'd be wild because everyone wants a good BCBA.
Uh,
Um, so like take that additional pressure off. If you're doing it for someone else's timeline, also it just doesn't help with the study process. I'll tell you that because now you're like more stressed out. You have more pressure, and it's just like this is about you. This is about you growing in your life, whatever it is. Also, this is like some advice that I need to take myself, right? So like when I just like had this hernia surgery, I was like, oh, whatever, I'll be back up and running the next day because that's how I usually when I get a lupus flare up, I'm in the ER, I get my fluids, my meds, and I'm at work the next day. Like I was so hard on myself, being like, I literally have like zero, like there's like I'm just like useless. I don't even know what to do at work. Like literally not taking anything in. I'm sitting in these meetings. I can't even like literally to the point of being like I can't even like keep organized notes in a notebook. I can't even find a notebook I like everything, right? And it's like in those times, just realize. And I actually was like telling Martha, my assistant who I work with, I was like, Martha, I need you to remind me. I was telling her yesterday. I was like, I need you to remind me next time like I'm like that like, hey, it's okay that you're not doing the work right now. Like it
mhm.
will come because like when you try like force these things, um, like allow yourself to take that break. And by the way, everything I'm saying, I know that I do not practice it well, but like I need to. Um, and don't compare yourself to others. Like you have no idea what someone else is doing. Remember, like, oh, they studied for 10 hours. Like they might have been sitting there on Instagram in front of their Cooper book. Like you don't know. And don't compare yourself when someone else passes. I would say that also. People are like, oh my God, but Martha passed. It's like there's enough passes to go around. Like you don't need to worry. It's not like because Martha passed, it says nothing. There is no relationship between you not passing, right? Like there's enough. So I would say that would be my biggest advice. And look at ways to make it enjoyable. Whether you use our test prep or not. Like that's our main thing is like, how would I make this fun? Would it be that I drink my favorite beer or like spike seltzer while I'm studying? Whatever it is, like just remember, like you get to make it your own process. So that's what I would say. And that I'd say that's the same for anyone who's like a BCBA and stressed in your new role. Like remember that you have time, like be on your own timeline. That would be my advice.
Awesome. So many great tips. So, where can people find you, Liat? Share website, Instagram. Let us know if
All
whoever.
right. So you could find us over on our website, studynotesaba.com. You'll find everything there, the app, CEUs. Uh, you could find our podcast over at behaviorbitches.com and on Instagram, where we're very active. Also, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. You could type in Study Notes ABA or Behavior Bitches Podcast, and you'll see lots of color, brightness. You'll know it's us.
Love
And follow there for any ABA content. And yeah, you could always reach out. We're around everywhere.
Love it. So at Hierasmus, our slogan is focus on the child in front of you. So we like to end every podcast episode by asking our guests to think about their own children or the child closest to them. And so, Liat, how do you keep the focus on Kobe in this busy world we live in?
How do I keep the focus on Kobe? Who's Kobe? I'm just kidding. How do I keep the focus on Kobe? Kobe is involved in everything. Kobe runs Study Notes ABA every day after school. He has an internship here, so he's here, um, wrecking everything at the office. Like this podcast studio has to be set up every day because he breaks it apart, all the candy. Kobe is in everything that uh, whether it's content that I'm teaching him something, and I'd say he's really before having Kobe, like I thought I knew what love was. I know this sounds like so like gag, but truly like the love you have for your kid is wild.
Yes,
And so it's like my highest reinforcer. Like the end of the day,
I
I'm
love
like so
that.
excited to go home and see him. Like even like when you're like, oh my God, finally they need to go to bed. But then you're like find yourself like looking at pictures of your phone on that of them. Like you're like zooming in. I'm like, oh my God, his hands are so cute and chubby. Oh, he's growing. Shoot. So he is the center of everything. And now
Love
he better just become a BCBA who likes drawing and doodling to
it.
take this over one day. Or I have higher hopes for my nieces.
Oh, love it. So, Liat, thank you so much for sharing your story, your energy, and your insight with us today. So, whether it's helping someone pass the exam, laugh through the struggle, or take the next steps in their career, your work continues to shape the ABA landscape in meaningful ways. So, truly, just I can't thank you enough for being here
Thank you,
today.
Amy. You also like put me in opportunity spaces, so I always appreciate you.
So, as always, stay focused and take care. Thank you for listening to Hierasmus and Friends. We'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks for joining us on Hierasmus and Friends, Stories Behind the Science. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us continue to share inspiring stories and foster empowerment within the autism community. See you next time.